Today's Cleveland Browns report is sponsored by HexClad. They've got the best pots and pans in the dishware game. So get your very own today. Plus, it's 10% off when you use our exclusive link, hexclad.com/chat. Promo code chat. All that information is in the comments and the description of today's video. Now, on today's show, we're going to do a deep dive on ESPN's defensive end rankings and see where they had Mr. Myles Garrett. Because if you clicked onto the article, you probably and fairly assumed he would be either number 1 or number 2, but not much further past that. And sure enough, Myles Garrett clocks in at that number 2 position. Here are ESPN's top 10 defensive end rankings. They polled a bunch of NFL execs and league personnel and whatnot, and here's what the voters came back with. Nick Bosa, number 1. Myles Garrett, number 2. Micah Parsons clocks in at 3. TJ Watt at 4. Haason Reddick flying in at number 5. Maxx Crosby at 6. That has Raiders fans very upset, I'm sure. Brian Burns at 7. Matthew Judon at 8. I've always felt like Judon has been underappreciated. Von Miller at 9, and then Joey Bosa, Nick's brother, coming in at number 10. Now, they did have some honorable mentions. Jaelan Phillips, if you don't know his name, get to know his name. He's going to be a rising star in this league. Aidan Hutchinson over in Detroit. Trey Hendrickson for Cincinnati. Khalil Mack and Cameron Jordan on the honorable mentions list. And then they had like another list of honorable mentions. And Zadarius Smith was in that for what it's worth. But let's do a deep dive on Myles Garrett because he was number 2. And some people might be upset that he's not number 1. And this is just what sports fans do in the offseason. We come up with lists, we come up with Mount Rushmores, with rankings designed to get half of the group upset that their star player, their favorite team, is not at the top of the list. So highest ranking he got in the voting was number 1. The lowest ranking was number 4. They even talked about there being a bunch of ties in these rankings and these votings and whatnot, so they had to break up those ties, but he comes in for his second finished place. In 2021, he was ranked number 1, but in 2022 and 2023, in ESPN's annual position rankings, he finished second. So let's spend the next 10 or so minutes doing a deep dive on whether or not Myles Garrett deserves to be number 1 or if he is fairly number 2. Because the numbers are going to lean towards Nick Bosa's way. Garrett has 32 sacks over the last 2 seasons, and that is the second most behind Nick Bosa. Now, when it comes to these endless debates we do as sports fans, there are a lot of great pros and cons to each one. They're all great players. When it comes to Garrett specifically, if I need to go get a sack, right, if I am putting together a team and I need a stop on 3rd and goal or whatnot, Myles Garrett is the guy I'm calling. Myles Garrett is the player I want coming in the clutch because he's done that so many times in his career. But we're going to look at whether or not Myles Garrett should be number 1 or number 2 on this list. It's kind of an endless debate that goes in circles because both sides have great points to make. And there are very, very razor-thin differences, right? It's not even 1A and 1B. It's 1A and it's 1A but with a lowercase a. That's how close it is when it comes to these defensive rankings. Now, what I'll tell you is not 1A and 1 lowercase a are the pans you can get over at HexClad because they've got the best pots and pans in the industry, and I'm really excited to tell you guys about all the great deals they are offering the dog pound. So today's sponsor, HexClad, has revolutionized the cookware industry with this awesome hybrid pan that gives you all the convenience and cleanup of nonstick, the versatility of your grandma's cast iron, and a lifetime warranty just in case you find a way to destroy them. So now use promo code CHAT at hexclad.com/chat for 10% off. HexClad, in my eyes, checks every single box when it comes to picking your cookware. They are metal utensil safe, dishwasher safe, and oven safe up to 500 degrees. Now, there are so many great pros when it comes to HexClad. Celebrity chef Gordon Ramsay has said phenomenal things when it comes to HexClad. They are the sexiest pans on the market, but this is what my favorite chef Gordon Ramsay has to say. The sear I get with these pans is incredible with absolutely no stick. The temperature control is utter perfection, and the cleanup is effortless. I love using HexClad at home. So make sure you get your own HexClad pans today. I'm rocking the little pot right now, so if you want to make some easy mac and cheese at home, some pasta, whatever your heart desires. It's going to come out tasting better when you use a HexClad. So stop dining out, spending a fortune on that, running up, unfortunately, a big bill and not the healthiest lifestyle, and start cooking at home with HexClad. All the information you need is in the comments and the description. 10% off when you go to HexClad.com/chat along with promo code CHAT. Now, the top three guys in ESPN's defensive end rankings were Nick Bosa, Myles Garrett, and Micah Parsons. And when you look at their stats over the last 2 years, it's a fair point to make about Nick Bosa being number one. I don't think this is a bad list because Myles Garrett is not number one. They are both generational pass rushers, right? Nick Bosa has 105 pressures to Myles Garrett's 90. They have more tackles for loss, more sacks. These are just the numbers. I'm sorry. Numbers, they are not out here to hurt your feelings. Numbers are just numbers. In my eyes, the numbers back up the listing, too. Now, an anonymous NFC executive did add this on Myles Garrett, saying he probably should be first every year. He's just not as consistent as some others on the list, but he's the best singular talent. And this is what I was saying earlier. If I'm picking a player to get a stop at one point in the game, I'm going with 95 Myles Garrett, because if I need that clutch sack on 3rd and goal, Myles Garrett is the guy. Now, what I want to hear from everyone watching right now is Myles Garrett the number one edge rusher in your opinion? Yes or no? These are I don't want to say silly, but they kind of are silly debates we do as fans, because both the 49ers and the Browns are very happy with their superstar pass rusher. I don't think either team would swap for the other one either. That's how generational they are. I mean, top picks in their respective draft classes have lived up to the hype and are going to be Canton players. That's just the track they are on. They are that great of players. But I want to circle back to that thing the NFC South said about Myles Garrett not being as consistent. That kind of struck me, because maybe when you do the eyeball test with Myles Garrett, there are times where it's damn, where was Garrett on that play? Really needed him right there. But the numbers don't back it up, right? When you look at some of these facts, they might surprise you. Myles Garrett has recorded a sack in 2/3 of the games he has played, 66.7%. And for what it's worth, TJ Watt has recorded a sack in just 63% of games. So to all the Steelers fans out there, I'll take Garrett's 66.7% sack percentage. He's never gone longer than 3 games without a sack. So he doesn't go on these long stretches of getting a bunch of sacks and then is MIA for 6 or 7 weeks. That's just not in Myles Garrett's DNA. He produces week in and week out. Now, he's also not someone who only chimes in for a sack or two, right? He has 21 out of 84 career games with 1+1.5 sacks or more. So when he does throw the hammer down, he gets it down too, and he gets a lot of sacks in a lot of games. He also is not someone who disappears, right? Only 5 career games with 0 pressure. So there are not games where Myles Garrett just takes it off. That's just not a thing with Myles Garrett, right? I know it might seem like that for some fans at times, where love Myles Garrett, but sometimes it feels like he's taking days off. The numbers, the stats, they prove you wrong, because numbers don't lie. So what's holding Garrett back from being the undoubted number one edge rusher? In my eyes, he's working solo. And that's something that Micah Parsons and Nick Bosa are not dealing with. When you look at the team sack totals for these 3 teams we're doing a deep dive on, the Browns, the 49ers, and the Cowboys, here are the sack totals over the last 2 years combined if you take out Micah Parsons, Nick Bosa, and Myles Garrett. The Cowboys, without Micah Parsons, the last 2 years, 68.5 sacks. 68.5 sacks without Micah Parsons. That's how well-rounded of a defense they have in Dallas. The 49ers, casual 58 sacks without the reigning NFL sack leader. But the Browns, without Myles Garrett, 45 sacks isn't bad, but these are the last 2 years combined. This is the difference between Myles Garrett and Nick Bosa and Micah Parsons. These other guys have great teammates on the defensive line. Myles Garrett's had Olivier Vernon for 1 season, Jadeveon Clowney for 1 good season, and that's it. All these other edge rushers, they've got loaded defensive lines that take the pressure off their superstars every once in a while and allow them to be freed up more to get more sacks. That's why I'm very excited for this year with Zadarius Smith coming in and his 36 sacks since 2019. And that includes 1 year where he played 1 game, 2 games. 3 out of the last 4 years, he's gone over 10 sacks. So you add that in with Jim Schwartz, a defensive line-friendly DC, and I think we're going to get a Defensive Player of the Year type candidate and performance from Myles Garrett this year. And I think he's going to break his single-season sack record as well. So let me know, over or under 20 sacks for Myles Garrett in 2023. It's a big number. It's not something that gets done every single year. Nick Bosa led the NFL in sacks last year with 18.5, I believe. So not very often do people casually chip in for 20 sacks. But I think with Okoronkwo and Zadarius Smith working opposite Myles Garrett, there's going to be a lot of fresh legs. There's going to be a lot of energy coming in the fourth quarter of games when opposing offensive line, those 300-pound linemen, they get worn down as the game progresses and as the season progresses. But for the Browns to have a fresh stable of edge rushers and to keep legs fresh and keep throwing guys at these offensive linemen, Myles Garrett could get up to 20 sacks this season. So I'm going over. It's ambitious, but hell, it's July. Why not live on the wild side a little bit? Now it's time for our favorite segment here on the show, Pick a Card Time. No Rolly, no Seeps today. Instead, we're very lucky to have the services of producer Jeremy Chuggs. Now, he works on our Steelers content here at Chat Sports.
Hey-o.
So everyone boo Chuggs in the comment section. We also have, we mentioned them on the show last week, 2 of the newer guys here at Chat Sports, Tyler Smith and Jake Chipper.
We're all
it's
picking
3v1.
cards.
You're all picking cards. 3v1 here to get the card right. So, Chuggs, you started off. This is your first time picking a card.
Ooh. I'm going to go 10 of hearts.
10 of hearts, bad pick. Chipper?
I think it's my 3rd time, so I've got to get it right here. I think I'm going to go 9 of diamonds.
9 of diamonds, it's better than Chuggs, that's for sure.
I'm going to go low this time. Give me the 2 of clubs.
Okay, 2.
That was Smitty, by the way.
That was Smitty. That's a intelligent pick because the low cards hit for whatever reason more than the higher cards.
Can I change mine?
Nope, you're locked in.
All right, 10 of diamonds.
10 diamonds. Put me in for a 5 of spades.
Oh, that's an awful pick.
No, it's not. All right, one last cut for
I don't
good
think
measure.
I've been to many casinos. I don't think I've ever even seen the card 5 of.
What did you pick?
10 of diamonds.
10 of spades.
Oh!
10 of spades.
Oh, no.
That is a In-N-Out burger right there.
Call that a bad beat.
Oh,
was so close.
Wow, 10 of spades. That's brutal right there for Chuggs.
God.
You hate to see it, but you don't too. Thanks so much for tuning in. Really appreciate everyone for taking time out of their day to come hang out with us. We'll see you guys later.